House and look forward to its rapid passing through the remaining stages.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr.
The Honourable Annette King.
Mr. Speaker, Labor supports the Riccarton Bush Amendment Bill, and I want to begin by acknowledging the local member, Jerry Brownlee, for bringing this bill to the House, and to also acknowledge the Riccarton Bush trustees for the work they did alongside the Christchurch City Council's legal services that did much of the work in preparing this bill. I would also like to say that I have fond memories of Riccarton House. This is my only association with it, as I'm not a Cantabrian, but many a good party has been held at Riccarton House in my days as a student, and I met many fine people at those parties, I have to say. So Jerry, you weren't one of them, but I had many fond memories of the house itself. But seriously, I do know how important that Riccarton Bush and Riccarton buildings and land are to the people of Canterbury. And I was interested when I listened to the first reading speeches, and we heard some of it today from Jerry Brownlee, the history of this land and buildings. And Dr. Megan Wood, when she was speaking, set out what she said was the historian in her, and set out how it had been a very important part, the bush itself had been a very important part of the natural history of the place. And that in fact there were protected remnants of bush that you once used to see over the entire Canterbury plains, and there were species and plants that you would see growing there that were once, if you looked at them, you were able to see what the Canterbury plains looked like. She also set out, along with Rino Te Riccarton, how important Dean's Bush and buildings and so on were to Ngāi Tahu, and it had been a very important site for them. And in fact, much of the carvings or many of the carvings for the waka and their important carvings had come from that bush. And it had also been a very important gathering place for pigeons and food source. So it was, I think, a really good exercise in people getting to know more about this historic site. But what this bill set out to do was to modernise and update the governance arrangements of Riccarton Bush, of the trustees themselves who manage Riccarton House and the bush. And it would define what the trustees' functions were more precisely, and to provide for the continuation of its work to improve the finances and the administration arrangements. There were only two submissions that needed to be heard on this bill. I wasn't there because Christchurch members were very keen to sit on the Select Committee that day, and they were heard in Christchurch. My understanding is that the Dean family themselves turned up in force for the hearing of those submissions on that day. So this bill, they did make some amendments, and one of the amendments that were made was to change the date when the first financial plan must be prepared from the 1st of July 2013 to July 2015. And this was to line it up with changes that had been made because of the Christchurch earthquake and the Canterbury Earthquake Local Government Act 2002 Order 2011 has the long-term plan for the Christchurch City Council being prepared in 2015. So what they've done with this date for the implementation here is to align the bill with that order in Council. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few words, we support this bill and wish for its speedy passage through this House.
I call Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very happy to rise